Hello, everybody, and welcome to a video where I will be counting down my 5 favorite things from Crimson Vow Draft. With the format winding down, it seems like a good time to reflect on my favorite parts, and that's what I'm going to be doing in this video. If you do enjoy it, remember to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel for more draft content, and comment below with your questions, thoughts, and feedback, and your favorite things about Crimson Vow Limited. Without further ado, let's get started. At number 5, I think one of the strengths of Crimson Vow was having good one-drops, and one-drops have been continuing to get better and better in recent sets, but I think Crimson Vow actually had a playable one-drop and quite a few good one-drops for every single color. So there was like Traveling Minister, Voltaire and Epicure, and Lantern Bearer were actually cards you were pretty happy to put in your deck, and then the Snarling Wolf and the Persistent Specimen were actually pretty decent cards in black and green as one drops as well. And I think that those sorts of things make the set more interesting. It lets the games feel like they start on turn 1, and I think that that just made the set a little bit more unique, because oftentimes sets will have maybe one good one drop or things like that, or one color will have one or things like that, but I feel like every single color got one this set, and that was pretty interesting, and a lot of them were quite powerful and cards you actively wanted in your deck. Traveling Minister and Lantern Bearer ended up being like the best commons for their colors, which was super interesting, and I think that it made the set play out in a very unique way. So I think that that was one of the strengths of the set, and something I wouldn't mind seeing going forward. Maybe not making them the best commons, but I feel like having strong or good one drops is pretty interesting and makes the games more fun. So I thought that was a strength of the set. At number 4, the new Disturb twist, where they came back as enchantments, I felt like was very successful, and I really enjoyed that take on the mechanic. I think it may have even been more successful than the first iteration where they came back as creatures, because it made it feel less broken in many ways, I feel like, a lot of the time, because you couldn't just get 2 creatures for the price of 1, and it didn't just make removal spells feel bad or things like that. Whereas a card like Twin Blade Geist, it felt like the spirit was coming back, but it wasn't going to like end the game, because if you had a way to deal with the new creature or things like that, it would actually be pretty doable, because auras are generally more easy to blow out than creatures. So a little bit higher risk, high reward type deal on cards like that. I also felt like it was really flavorful. The spirit is coming back to help as like an aura that kind of has the same benefits that the creature had. So Twin Blade Geist had double strike, Twin Blade Invocation gives a creature double strike. They kind of really nailed the theme with that, and I felt like it made the new Disturb feel almost like a brand new mechanic, but it was the same mechanic because it was still Innistrad, and I think that that was just kind of a really nice way to have a new twist on an old mechanic and make it feel unique while also being in a new set and clearly a new environment. So I really liked the changes they made to that, and I felt like it was really interesting. And I'm glad that they did it in this order, because it might have made Exploit too powerful if you just had like free sack fodder lying around. So I think that the way they lined up which mechanics went into which of the Innistrad sets they made really helped with the balancing and things of that nature. Moving on to number 3 is Strong Werewolves. I think it was really important that they nailed this in at least one of the Innistrad sets that they did. It would have been better, I think, if they had Strong Werewolves in Midnight Hunt, but since they did not kind of deliver on that front, I think having Strong Werewolves in Crimson Vow was almost necessary so that people could get a chance to play with the werewolves while they were on Innistrad, because that's a very unique Innistrad thing, and it's one of those things that people really enjoy playing with. People like werewolves. It's a fun mechanic, or interesting at the very least. For some people might not have fun with them, but it's a very interesting mechanic and very unique, and I think people really expect strong werewolves, or at least good werewolves, when they go to Innistrad, and so the fact that there were actually good werewolves on Crimson Vow was pretty nice. I think they had a couple good ones at common. They had a couple good ones at uncommon. There were some werewolf payoff cards and wolf payoff cards, and I think that that was really important. It almost felt like the werewolves were more prevalent and the payoffs were more prevalent than they were in Crimson Vow than they were in Midnight Hunt. They were certainly stronger, but it almost felt like they actually just had more payoff cards, which was a very interesting vibe, but definitely important to have good werewolves, and I'm very happy that they did. I think it made the format more interesting. I think it was also nice that they didn't have like a common 2-drop werewolf to kind of just instantly take over the game, but they would get started around like turn 3 or turn 4, and then you were like, okay, I need to make sure I can cast a spell so these don't flip, because when they flipped, it did become a real problem. So I think that they really delivered on the werewolves this set, and I'm glad that actually happened, because it made the set more interesting and more fun, and it was kind of nice to get to see the werewolves in action. At number 2, blood tokens. I think this was a great mechanic. I think that it was great to have a way to smooth your draws, and it felt like you had a lot of agency over how you were going to use them. Maybe you need to discard a marginal spell. Maybe you just save them to discard your lands. Maybe you need to discard a spell early so you can hit your land drops. It really just made the games play out in a more interesting way, and I think blood tokens giving you agency over your gameplay was really nice. I think having a card smoothing mechanic is really nice in Limited because it makes it so that you actually get to feel like you're playing the game instead of just at the whim of whatever you're going to be drawing. Like if you're going to flood out, that's just going to happen sometimes, but it's nice to be able to have some control over that, and blood tokens really did that. I think that it was a very successful mechanic. It wasn't really thematic. It didn't really feel like, oh, this is a blood thing. It was just like you could have kind of called it anything, like a cycling token, or in a different set you maybe call it just like really a sand token. You could have called it pretty much anything, but it was nice that they kind of went into this space. I think it would be a successful mechanic really in any set, depending on what you called it. You wouldn't always call it a blood token, but you could call it like basically anything, and it would kind of do a similar thing. But I think that they were sneaky good. They at the beginning of the format, it kind of looked like you were going to be wanting to look for ways to use blood tokens that weren't just using them to discard a card and draw a card. But by the end, it was just like, well, discarding and drawing a card is plenty good for me. And if you find an extra way to use them, then that's just a bonus. But yeah, blood tokens were a real success, I think, and the sort of mechanic that I wouldn't want to see it in every set, because it's nice to have sets that feel like they're different and have like different ways of smoothing your draws or different like unique mana sinks in them. But I feel like it was the type of mechanic that tack a different name onto it and then put that type of token into the set, and I feel like it could actually be a success going forward. So definitely the sort of thing that I thought was interesting and pretty fun. And now getting to the number 1 thing that I liked about Crimson Vow Draft, and that is that it was relatively balanced. I think that was a major success point for the set, and it really did have a big impact on how the games felt, how it felt to play the matchups. This is 17 lands draft data for the set, and the average win rate of a user on 17 lands was 55%. So if you keep that 55% number in mind, the delta between the best deck and the worst deck, it's like 1.5 up or 1.5 down is the percentage swing, generally speaking. And that's a pretty like tight range. It's pretty nice that the decks were relatively balanced, that you weren't going to be like shooting yourself in the foot too hard if you played a particular strategy, and there wasn't a deck that was like so much better than the others that you like had to force that deck if you wanted to have success in the format. So I think it was really nice that there was balance, because it felt like when you went into a draft, you weren't like guaranteed to play against the same deck every time. There wasn't this like sinking feeling where your opponent played a certain like land, sometime like land combination and you felt like you were going to lose. So in some sets, it's like, well, my opponent played an island first and then they played a swamp second, and I immediately feel like I can't win the game, or things like that. There are some sets that are like that, and they're not a lot of fun because you just like immediately feel like you're at a disadvantage when your opponent happens to be in the best archetype and you're in the worst archetype, or things of that nature. But this one, it felt like every deck had a fighting chance against every other deck. There wasn't a deck you felt like you had to force if you wanted to win. And overall, there were some decks that were stronger than others, but it wasn't by like a massive margin where like one deck was unplayable and the other deck was excellent. So I think that is really makes this format much more fun to play. It is sometimes hard to notice because in many cases you're just kind of playing your games, and the fact that it's balanced doesn't necessarily like come up like you're not like noticing it directly, but it's just one of those things that kind of runs in the background and makes the set more fun. And I think they did a pretty good job balancing this one. And so it's good to give kudos when they do something really nice. And I think that was one of the things that was a strength of Crimson Vow Draft. Anyway, that is going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed it, comment with your questions and your favorite parts of Crimson Vow Draft in the comments section down below, and subscribe for more draft content. If you are subscribed already, click that bell icon to get notified when I post future videos. If you did make it all the way to the end and want to let me know, it's always cool to see who makes it there. Leave hashtag #VowPower in the comments section down below, because we were talking about all of the strengths and the powerful things, the good things that Crimson Vow did well. So leave that in the comment section down below to let me know you made it all the way till the end. If you would like to support my content, you can do so via Patreon, patreon.com/NicolaiBolas. A couple bucks a month goes a long way towards helping me continue to make these videos. And then if you would like to find a bunch of free stuff, you can find the NicolaiBolas Discord channel in the comments section down below, the link to join. It's a great community of almost 500 folks, and you are all welcome to jump in and talk about all things magic. And then you can also find links to my articles, links to my Twitch stream, and then if you want to find NicolaiBolas merchandise or things like that, you can also find that linked in the description down below. That is going to do it for this video. I really do hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you next time.